The Outdoor Marketing Podcast is a spin-off of the Outdoor Marketing Bootcamp, a 2-day virtual learning event on February 17th and 18th, 2026, which covers a wide range of marketing topics, from AI and SEO to influencer marketing, social media content creation, branding, video, and so much more. Tickets are on sale now at outdoormarketingbootcamp.com. Support for this podcast is provided by American Trails, advocating for more trails and better trails. Check out their site at americantrails.org. Support is also provided by 5280 Creative, a branding and marketing agency which specializes in the outdoor industry. Check out their work at 5280creative.com. That's the number 5280 spelled out, creative.com.
Okay, here we are with Kenzie Smith. Kenzie, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Miles, for having me.
Very good. And you're getting over some kind of respiratory infection right now, so appreciate you soldiering through.
Hey, no problem. Like I said, I'm feeling better. I just sound a little strange, so.
Yeah, all good. First of all, for our listening audience, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your podcast. Tell us anything we need to know about you.
Yeah, so my name's Kenzie Smith. I am originally from Wichita, Kansas, so a Midwest girl through and through, but I live out in Utah now. I've been out here for about 1.5 years with my husband and our 2 dogs. We love the West. We love all things outdoors, camping, backpacking, hunting, fishing, you name it. If it's outdoors, we love it. And I am the host of My Valley, His Victory podcast, which is a podcast for Christians who love the outdoors, that have been through a season of wilderness or a valley in their life and just what maybe God has taught them or prepared them for in that season. Mm-hmm. And I also do some content creation for outdoor brands and am just really engulfed in bringing all of my passions into my life, into what I do in one way or another.
Yeah, fantastic. No, that's great. And as a fellow Christian, I appreciate your approach to that podcast. Our company, 5280 Creative. When I started that company, I really wanted the emphasis to be that it was a faith-based company. Not to say we won't work with people that don't also share our beliefs. We do, absolutely. But I think that ultimately was, we want to point back the way that we do things as a company, as individuals within our company, how we operate and how we treat people. We want that to reflect the faith that we have. So very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that into the outdoor space.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, there's awesome people in the space, as you well know. You can't, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I'm like, I've not met too many people in this space. I actually can't think of a single person that I'm like, boy, that person's a real jerk. You just don't meet them. Everyone's so laid back and relaxed. And I think, we all do share that love of getting outside and, trying to embrace what it is to be surrounded by things that are beautiful. Yeah. So
yeah, I always tell people when they ask me how I'm doing on trail, I say, how could I be any better? I mean, look around. So how can you be in a bad mood if you're outdoors?
Yeah, no, absolutely. How did you get into to podcasting? What sparked that in your mind as hey, this is something I want to do? Tell us about your journey specifically to that kind of content creation.
Yeah, so oh goodness, I had a blog at the time when I kind of had this idea. I was a guest on a podcast where I got to share my story and kind of how I came to know the Lord and my love for the outdoors. And I had been looking for ways to kind of bring these two worlds together. I feel like everything that I found was either Christian or it was outdoors. And there wasn't many things that brought the two together. And so once I was on that podcast and I got to share my story and I just got to kind of hear the response from that show and just like, wow, thank you so much for sharing all that you did. And just kind of like bringing these two worlds together and all of that. I just was like, man, I think that there's a gap in this space and I feel like I could facilitate that. And so, after that, I put boots on the ground and got to work and figured out what it took. I didn't know anything about starting a podcast at that point in time. But I read a really good book. It's called The Uncommon Path to Common Success, I believe is what it's called. And when I was reading it, I actually was not intending to start a podcast by any means. I was reading it for another reason, and but the guy in the book who writes the book, he writes it about starting a podcast, but it's essentially just a
Mm,
guide on how to kind of start a business or,
okay.
that sort of thing. But his all of his examples were a podcast. And so I just read this book, I had just finished, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have the blueprint right here how to do it." And so
Yeah.
did that, and yeah, it's been going since I launched it. Oh gosh. January of 2024 was the very first episode.
Okay. All right. So year and a half into it at this point.
Yeah.
And tell us about is it monthly? Is it weekly? How often are you putting episode? What have you seen? I think that's a question I get a lot with people that are in the podcasting space, which I've been in and out of it for 10, 15 years, and I'll be honest with you, I've never really had any success in podcasting. I think I'm just not that interesting, so that's probably a big part of it right there. What are you noticing though, as far as, you know, how often to think about scheduling episodes? What restrictions are you seeing? What are the successes and challenges? And just talk through that a little bit, Kenzie.
Yeah, so when I started, I wanted to do weekly.
Mhm.
There is a lot of different ways you can do it. You can do it monthly, you can do it bi-weekly, you can do it weekly. There are people that do an episode daily. That's crazy to me. And then I have an interview style podcast, so I don't really share a whole lot about myself. I mean, I add tidbits here and there, but it is mainly an
Hmm.
interview show, so it's all about the guest. And so what I have found with that is really the key to success in podcasting. And I wouldn't say I'm, a super huge success in the podcasting world, but I feel like my
Hmm.
show does good. And it, what I found is just consistency. So whatever you decide to
Hmm.
do, making sure that you keep up that consistency. So if you're going to do it every 2 weeks, then you need to do it every 2 weeks and not just sporadically, send out messages into the world because then people
Hmm.
don't know when to tune in. They don't know what to expect in the future, that sort of thing. So I think whatever you do, consistency is really important. And then, the challenge to that obviously is time. And if you're doing an interview style, getting people to interview, that's a big part of
Right.
it that you don't
Right.
have control over. And so one of the things that the book taught me was to always have like 6 weeks of content or a month and a half, whatever that looks like for you,
Hmm.
in the bank at all times. So,
Hmm.
always trying to have a a fail safe essentially. So you're not constantly looking for people to interview, this week for next week's episode
Sure.
because you're going to get really exhausted doing that. And you're going to go through ebbs and flows where you find a lot of people to interview and you're going to go through times where, you're not really having a huge
Hmm.
guest pool interest. And so,
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the main ebbs and flows with an interview style podcast that I can speak from. And so just really trying to stay ahead, and
Hmm. Hmm.
you know, keep on that train.
Would you recommend so I think that people have a tendency, at least I know I do. I get very overzealous when I start any new project. My wife likes to ding me on this one. She's like, maybe you should write your ideas down, put them aside for a week, and then reread them and see if you still want to do it at that, with that kind of force or veracity. Do you think that somebody just starting off, would you recommend, hey, just go once a month at first, and then see if you want to ramp up or possibly even ramp down from that? Would that be a good starting point as far
Yeah,
as frequency?
yeah, I think just like knowing what you're capable of, knowing the time constraints that you do have, if you have a family, if you have a full-time job, if you have all of these things, the thing I would say is podcasting is a labor of love at the beginning, and it is a lot more time intensive than I think people realize. And so that
Hmm.
is just what I would say. Like I would say in the beginning, it took me probably 8 hours to produce one episode between scheduling the guests, recording,
Hmm.
editing, putting it on the internet, all of that fun stuff.
Hmm.
And so just really being honest with yourself about, do I have the time to do this?
Right.
And being able to outsource if you don't, to other people to do your editing or that sort of thing. But
Sure.
I would just like know what you're capable of. And also, I always tell people whenever you're committing to do something, don't go based on your feelings. Set a certain amount of time. So when I started this, I said, I'm going to do this for a year,
Hmm.
regardless of the outcome. I'm going to
Yeah.
put out an episode every week for a year.
Hmm.
And then from there, I'm going to reevaluate.
Hmm.
I'm not going to reevaluate after 3 months when I have 20 downloads per episode. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it is something, where you have to have some steam, get the ball rolling.
Hmm.
So commit to a time, plan accordingly, and be honest with yourself about whether or not this is something you're passionate about, you're
Hmm.
going to stick with, and that you have the time to do.
I think that's really, really excellent advice, right? Yeah, because you're not going to be able to judge after just a few weeks or a few months. I
You're going to be
like,
really sad if
yeah,
you do that.
absolutely. No, I like the what you're saying. Commit to it for a year, for a minimum 12-month period of time, and then I think also when you get to the end of that, you often forget. We tend to we tend to have short memories on that stuff. Go
For
look
sure.
back. Go look back at where you started and where you're at now, as far as those views and those shares and those comments and likes, and that's also an unfortunate thing about the world that we live in now is everything. I was talking to my daughters. I have two daughters, and we were talking about social media and about how it's so when we were in high school. This is when I was in high school and middle school. Like, yeah, the popular kids, the unpopular kids, and it was more qualitative, I would say, right? But now it's very quantitative. Now it's like, I know I'm popular because I have 200 likes, and I know you're a loser because you have three, So that's like that's the world we live in. And like I'm telling you, these kids they're on a bad trajectory with that stuff, right? Which is
Yeah.
why we got to get them off those devices and get them outside. But anyway, going back to that, your point though, of like, look at where you started, look at where you're at, because that's going to be a boost as well to you to see, okay, this is succeeding. Maybe it's not going as fast as I wanted to, but we are having some success.
Well, and what I would say to that too is like, whether you're a business, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're someone who's, I'm a storyteller, that's what I would say.
Hmm.
Every every person has a different journey when it comes to podcasting. And so success for me may not be the same as success for you, and you have to define that
Hmm.
for what your goal is for the podcast. So
Right.
if you're a tourism board and your goal is to, get more people to come to your town, and that's happening, and you may be only getting, 500 podcast downloads a month, then that's success. For me,
Hmm.
if my story that I share impacts one person, that's success to me.
Right.
If you're a business owner and you're trying to drive more sales to your online platform
Hmm.
sales and you're
Hmm.
seeing that, that's
That's
awesome.
yeah.
Everyone has different goals. And so I
Hmm.
think putting that at the forefront too,
Hmm.
of like, do I need this to make money?
Hmm.
Am I doing this to educate people? Is there a way that it can do both? Everyone
Yeah.
has a different journey there. And so defining at the beginning, what would make this be considered successful for me? What do I need to see the outcome?
It's not, yeah, not necessarily always about the quantity. It's about the quality of the downloads, the quality of the people that are tuning in, especially as you get more and more niche. So we do this marketing podcast is specifically looking at the outdoor space with a specific goal of informing people about the outdoor marketing boot camp. That's not a very big network casting. It's a very small pond, that we are, that we're fishing in, so to speak. So for us, what success looks like, it looks like featuring people like yourself that are going to be speaking at our conference, and giving people a free taste of something, so that maybe they'll go, boy, that was cool. Maybe I should check out that
Mhm.
conference. It's a
Yeah.
lot different, than somebody that's out there that's doing, a podcast in a broader space. So I think you're right. Like, make sure that your expectations are in line with what's a positive outcome. That being said, I've often thought, like, because we live in a world of such short form content, right? Where people want to get their stuff in 5 seconds on reels or whatever, and obviously podcasting tends to be 10 and 15 minutes or longer, oftentimes a lot longer, long form content. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that? Give me an example. I want two examples from you. Who should start a podcast or think about it, and who should definitely not start a podcast?
You shouldn't start a podcast if you're trying to get rich quick.
Right.
So don't do that. So someone that should start a podcast, I really, for me personally, when I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to podcasts for one of two reasons. I'm either trying to learn something
Hmm.
or I'm trying to hear a story, usually about something. Those are the two
Hmm.
reasons I personally tune into podcasts. Um, and so I think there's a time and a place for long and short form content, and there's a lot that can be done in both capacities.
Hmm.
But I think that the short form is capture someone's attention to know why they need to hear about the long form thing. And
Hmm.
if you can capture their attention there, then you can usually get them to listen to the longer form thing. Or if it's just something that they really care about or are
Hmm.
interested in, I think that's going to happen. I think honestly, truly, I think we're seeing a little bit a shift away from short form content. I think people are honestly getting over consumed. Is that the right word?
Sure.
There's too much, and there's too much information, and it's not enough information about anything to be truly engaged or to be
Yeah.
truly educated. And so I think people are kind of thirsting for a little bit deeper and a little bit less
Hmm.
surface and
Hmm.
not so trendy. I think
Hmm.
that was fun and that was cute for a little while, and it definitely still does well in certain settings, but
Hmm.
I really do think we're sorry.
No, you're good.
Um, I really do think we're seeing a little bit of a shift back towards some older styles of content.
Mm.
And so, I would just say, back to your original question, who shouldn't start a podcast? Um, that's really hard for me to say, but
Mhm.
um, because I think it depends on what your idea is. There's a lot there.
Kind of a
But
trick
like
question.
don't try to like do exactly what somebody else is doing. Like if that's
Sure.
your whole idea, just don't do that. Or if you're not gonna stay committed to it, like I said earlier, I think it really is it's a long game,
Hmm.
and I think there has to be value, and there has to be a unique piece
Hmm.
to it. So I don't know. That doesn't really answer your question, but
No, I
um,
think it's just I think what you're really getting at is that you need to be intentional. You need to have a plan, and you need to consider all those variables before you launch into creator mode on that. I think that's great advice. Take it, yeah. Stop for a second. You're excited about it. Take it like my wife says to me. Write it down on a piece
yeah.
of paper. Put it away for a week. Come back to it. See if that still feels good, and then do some research. To be able to prepare.
Yeah, well, and one thing that I did when I started was, I pooled the market for, what is there something out there that exists
Hmm.
that is similar to what I'm doing? Because if there is, then maybe I can tag along team with that.
Hmm.
I think a lot of times we want to like do our own thing, we want to start our own thing, but sometimes joining forces with other people is
Hmm.
really valuable too. And so
Hmm.
pool the market, see if what you're trying to create already exists. If it does, see if you can partner. If it doesn't, then maybe you found a hole in the market.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good advice. Let's talk about somebody that's like, all right, I've done all the things that Kenzie said. I've taken her prescription, and I'm still going forward. I want to do this. Let's talk about gear. What would you say is the basic gear somebody needs to get started um, launching their podcast?
Yeah. So you need a computer. I know some people would argue with that. They'd say you can do it on your phone. There's a lot of cheap ways you can do it, but if you want to do quality,
Hmm.
good stuff, which I think is important, especially when it comes to audio,
Sure.
you need a computer. You need a middle of the road microphone. You don't need the best of the best. If you can afford the best of the best, that's great. But there's a
Hmm.
lot of really good options for like $100 on Amazon. So you need a podcast or you need a mic, you need a computer.
Hmm.
Then you'll need a editing software, which I use Audacity. It's free.
Hmm.
So that's awesome. We love that. And then you need a recording platform. So there's a lot of different ones out there.
Hmm.
We're doing this one right now on Zoom. I use Riverside, which is a platform that's made specifically for podcasts. And
Hmm.
then you need I forget the technical term for it, but a software that is going to push it to all the platforms. And so
Hmm.
there are, again, lots of options out there. I use Buzzsprout for that.
Hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of the basics to get started, and that will cover the work that you need to do
Hmm.
with those things. But you kind of need three softwares: a recording software, an editing, and then a what is it called? One that
Like a streaming provider.
yeah, streaming provider.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so you've named a couple of them. I want to go through from the microphone down through the chain all the way out to pushing it out. What are you using right now? Be specific.
yeah, so I am using a MacBook Pro. That is my computer.
Hmm.
I use a Fi-Fine microphone. It's like a kind of, I think it was a gaming streaming microphone when I looked it up on Amazon.
Hmm.
I am using Audacity to edit my episodes. I'm using Riverside to record, and then I'm using Buzzsprout as the
Okay.
integrator to Apple, Spotify,
Hmm.
iHeartRadio, YouTube, etc.
Okay. And then obviously I'm on this side. I'll give you my rundown of equipment too, just in case anyone wants to compare and contrast. I do come from a broadcast media background. I spent 10 plus years in broadcast. I'm very picky when it comes to, especially to my chain from my microphone to my preamp. This is a Shure SM7B microphone. I love this microphone. I have a Focusrite preamp that I plug into that goes into my computer, recording on Zoom. And then I do all my editing on Adobe Audition. And then as far as with the platform I use to put it out, I actually use Spotify's podcasting platform because it's free and I didn't want to pay it because I'm frugal. Does that make sense? Okay.
Absolutely. The other thing that you need that we didn't talk about is headphones because
Yes. Yes.
podcasts sound really bad if you don't use
That's
headphones.
right. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's tons of quality stuff, like you said, that's fairly inexpensive out there for the headphone side too.
I always
Okay.
forget about that piece.
Lightning round. You ready for a lightning round? Let's wrap this up. Lightning round.
Ooh, sure.
Here we go. Question one, lightning round. Coke or Pepsi?
Coat.
Good choice. Question two. You mentioned a book at the beginning. You might mention this one again, but marketing book or a newsletter, a YouTuber, a podcast, some piece of content that you would recommend to other people that want to learn more about podcasting.
Think Media.
Think Media.
Think Media.
What is that?
They have they do a lot of stuff for YouTube, but I feel like their content in general is just awesome. But I think it's the guys that used to run Dave Ramsey
Hmm.
question mark.
Mhm.
N I don't know. That's not true. They're just successful YouTubers that they have a podcast, they have a YouTube, they have all these things. They talk about how to get your message out in the world. They give
Okay.
you a blueprint, all the things.
Okay. Think Media. Very good. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yes.
Ugh, okay. Agree to disagree. If you could only do one thing, you got to pick one. Would you bike, hike, paddle, or climb? Can only pick one.
Hike.
Hike. Okay. And
For
if
sure. That's like all I do.
that's all you do, okay. If there is one thing in the marketing space that you would encourage someone listening to this podcast to do, an immediate action they could take right now, what would it be?
Engage with the people on social media that are using and tagging you in their products.
Okay. That's what we got. Do you want to plug anything before we wrap this up officially?
I would just say if you have any questions, I am Messages from the Mountain on Instagram, and my podcast is My Valley His Victory. So you can find me on those two places, and I would love to connect and chat about any questions or anything in the outdoors that you want to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thanks for being a part of what we're trying to do around here, not only today, but of course, like I mentioned earlier, you're also going to be speaking at our outdoor marketing boot camp in February 2026. I'm super psyched for that. Super appreciate you doing it because, as I told you when we first connected, I was like, I really would like someone that's doing this day in and day out to be able to speak and talk about some of the things we've talked about, but be able to go more in depth. So,
Yeah.
looking forward to that. Thanks so much, Kenzie.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to it.
Awesome. All right. Once again, check out Kenzie's stuff online for her podcast, My Valley, His Victory. And if you want to kind of see the more full picture too, Messages from the Mountain, you can find her online. You can find her. Her website is simply messagesfromthemountain.com if you want to check that out. Find out more about Kenzie and the awesome work that she does. And yeah, super appreciate everybody listening here. Thanks so much.